Hi, Aries. Welcome to your March 2020 Astro Update. I'm Raina, and this is an interesting month because obviously this is the solar return period, and for some of you, your birthdays are actually in March. Solar return is totally official when it's your actual degree of sun sign. If you're listening for a rising sign, this is going to be your natal chart position. But if this is your sun sign, you have to realize that every year the sun may go into Aries on a different date. So your official solar return may be a day or two different than your actual birthday. But that's just a little fun factoid. So as the month begins, the sun is in Pisces, which is your 12th house. And it's like the monk, the hermit, the 12th house. So it's kind of in that hibernation period, the month before your birthday, and for the rising sign when the sun is in the 12th house. And the thing that's interesting about this particular year is that Mercury is in Pisces retrograding as the month begins. And so it is also in the 12th house. And this can be very introspective, to say the least, because the 12th house it goes so deep into, this is like, we're talking about past lives, we're talking about the spiritual. So you may be doing a lot of soul searching and kind of like reflection, which is kind of uncharacteristic for Aries. Now, I'm broad brushing Aries people. And this is not anything disparaging at all. You're just a more active person typically, but some of you do have Mercury in Pisces anyhow in your natal chart, and you might have your sun in the 12th house for all I know. So you may have a lot of tendencies to be more reflective, but in general you really are active. You really are even like physical, and having to kind of feel this sense of being restrained in any way. And when I say restrained, I'm talking about just that sense of not being able to move forward, of like the 12th house is unfinished business. So that's kind of going through your head with Mercury retrograde. And on the 4th, Mercury goes back into Aquarius, the sign before Pisces. So then it's going back into your 11th house, which is the house that deals with your long-range goals. Now, I was just reading about the 11th house last night, and I would love to just sit here and read that to you, because even paraphrasing it won't do it justice. It was so well written. But, getting a handle on the 11th house sometimes is a bit tricky, because even in the article they were saying that people just boil it down to hopes and wishes and friendships and groups. And it's really about so much more than that. And even with hopes and wishes, the traditional astrologers considered this the luckiest house. So I feel like when Mercury goes back into the 11th house, well, maybe some of the other placements. Let me put it this way, when Mercury goes back into the 11th house, and remember, it's still retrograding, so there is still kind of a reflective tone here. You're going to rethink some of your goals, but the goals that you have set, to me, it's not just like career goals per se, but what will make you happy in life. And there's something about that 12th house that is informing the 11th house in this Mercury retrograde. And you may not even know it on a conscious level. This may simply be that you are really feeling almost like you're feeling like a what's the thing like a an urge or something along those lines, which is an intuitive urge or nudge to kind of like go after your dreams. And so it's very interesting. It might be on very subtle, but I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I think it gets glossed over far too often. And on the same day that Mercury goes back into Aquarius, Venus goes into Taurus, the house that it rules. So this can be good for money. By the way, when Mercury goes back into Aquarius, you may touch base with friends, maybe some that you have fallen out with or fallen out of touch with. So, there's a possibility that you need to contact them for a specific reason that has to do with your happiness, that has to do with your sense of, the direction you're going in. So Venus in the second house, great for money, great for, attracting money to you and things of that nature. On the 9th, Mercury goes direct at 28 degrees of Aquarius in the 11th house. And you may, finally come to some decision internally about, the direction you're going in and what you're going to do, what kind of dreams you're going to conspire to attain. Maybe you're even planning things out in a certain way. And on that same day, we have a full moon at 19 degrees of Virgo in your 6th house. Now, full moons brings things to culmination or awareness, sometimes to completion, depending on the circumstance. Because you recently had planets in the 10th house, we could be talking about a change in careers, a change in what it is that you want to do to serve others. So the full moon can bring this to awareness. You could be, in some cases, getting a promotion or a raise. And maybe that's Venus into Taurus, that's connected. Awareness of a health condition, perhaps, for some. Or at least, wanting to look into these things, putting your attention on them. On the 16th, so this is a week later, Mercury goes back into Pisces, back into that 12th house. When Mercury is in the 12th house, it's not rational, it's very intuitive, and when it's direct, I feel like you're going to have more clarity, although in the 12th house, clarity is not really what it's all about. But on the spiritual side of things, this can definitely indicate the ability to tune into, yourself intuitively for meditation and things like that. Even retrograde, who knows? I was thinking about that. Maybe that's the best time to get like a past life regression or something. I'll have to see, what other astrologers think about that. On the 19th, you have your solar return, in a general sense, of course. And all of us have the astrological new year. And this is the time, I think it's great to have it in the northern hemisphere because it's spring. And, it's the vernal equinox, and it's a time of things beginning to blossom. If you're in Australia in the southern hemisphere, the year is dying, and yet it's the first sign of the zodiac. So it's kind of like weird, to think of it that way. Of course, beginnings and endings are kind of interchangeable in a certain way. So, in any case, this is a PowerPoint of the year. But for you, it holds extra significance because it's your solar return. And a couple days after that, a significant event, Saturn going into Aquarius, because Saturn has a 2.5 year transit through a sign. And I would just say 3 years. It's kind of closer to 3 years because of the retrogrades. So, needless to say, this is like 3 times longer than a Jupiter transit. So there's like a lot of importance that it's going, because it's going to hang around in your 11th house when it goes into Aquarius on March 21st. And Saturn crystallizes our dreams and makes them reality. In this case, we're dealing with the issues of the 11th house again. And this is why I brought up the 11th house at the beginning, because these are your dreams. And, dreams are only as good as when a person makes them into reality through taking inspired action and really paving the way for dreams to come true. And so perhaps because earlier in the month, Mercury has had you revisiting certain dreams, now for the next few years, you can lay down foundation to make them actually crystallize into 3D reality. So I will say, though, that Saturn is going to go back into Capricorn for several months, beginning in May. It's going to retrograde, and it will go back into Capricorn in early July. If you want to find out more about how Saturn is going to affect you in Aquarius, check out my playlist for the transits of Saturn, and I've got one for Aries. It's longer. A few days after that, your new moon at an early degree, 4 degrees of Aries, is happening on the 24th. And so, new moon in the first house and forward movement. Set your intentions. It's interesting. I mean, this is a month of making wishes. And there's a lot of lunar eclipses this year. There are a lot of retrogrades this year. So this may be a year, in a strange sense, of a lot of endings or wrapping things up. This is a 4 universal year, and that means laying down solid structure in your life. So, for instance, if you want to, have a certain profession, this is the time to go to school or go back to school or take, a certification course. You're preparing. Next year, when it's a 5 universal year, it's going to be a year of change. A lot of things may be in flux, so there might be a lot of people who are trying new things. And so this is a great year for solid effort. And also kind of having the ability to do a lot of preparation, because there are months, May looks like a real doozy, because there are several planets going retrograde, and all of them, I think, Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus or something like that. It's like, oof, because, well, Venus is a personal planet and the other ones are not, but still, they may have some effect on, being able to progress. But if things are not progressing, it doesn't mean that they will never progress. It just might mean that we have to prepare more. And you just keep on keeping on, and then wait for the time when it's right to launch. That's all. On the 30th, Mars goes into Aquarius, and this is more vigorous action where you may be like, okay, here I am, world. I'm not, I am not going to wait any longer. And I think, I'm trying to think about in April if there are any retrogrades. Because I thought there was something in April. Because, I'm just going to double check here. Yes, there are shadow periods for some of these longer transits. All I see here is that Neptune is retrograding in April. So there might be an opportunity for you to launch something in April if you feel so inclined. Or even late March. So you definitely have like fire in the belly for something. Sometimes if this is related to your social life, you may feel like you're at odds with people, that you're kind of clashing. Or if you belong to a group, you may not really share some of their beliefs anymore. And this could be because of some of the, whether you call it spiritual work or just rumination that you've been doing, and how it has been affecting your relationships with others. I mean, it's certainly, you might feel that you're at cross purposes with a lot of people because you really have certain dreams that other people may not share or understand. Maybe they're even, in some cases, if you've shared these dreams in the past, they were disparaging of them because it threatened their own lack of vision. And I can't see the typical Aries person being discouraged by other people, but who knows? Maybe some of you were discouraged in the past and you said, you know what? I'm not going to put this off any longer. I'm going to go for this. And then, you have done so. And that's what you're doing right now. So Mars in the 11th house is an active pursual. Is that a word? Active pursuing of your dreams. So that sounds good to me. Okay, Aries, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading to look at the year ahead, to have your natal chart analyzed, I do a combination reading. Sometimes I just do transit readings if that's what people want. Check me out. I'm at rainamoonastrology.com. The link is in the description box. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.